Get a glimpse of the bank's past and follow its journey into the future. By the Hands of Grenadians, a tale of commitment, fortitude, and leadership.
Today is an extremely historic and proud day for us at Co-op Bank, and it is my distinct and profound pleasure to welcome each of you individually to this function, the launch of our book, By the Hands of Grenadians. Co-op Bank recently celebrated 90 years of service to Grenada. As a matter of fact, today is our birthday. Today, Co-op Bank turns 91. It was considered appropriate and prudent to write our history, considering all that has happened over those 90 years and now 91. The numerous hurdles and challenges that not only our founding fathers had to maneuver around and navigate through to start this bank, but also those of the successive directors, managers, and the individual teams along the way who came after our founding fathers had to treat with. Co-op Bank is no doubt, at least in my mind, a prototype for what committed leadership, dedicated staff, visionaries at all levels can achieve when combined, when energies are focused in one direction on the road to success. I am also quite certain, and I hope I'm not preempting the governor when I say this, that our beloved son of the soil, Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Mr. Timothy N.J. Antoine, as he likes to be called, who is our chief regulator and supervisor, and who has graced us with his presence here today, would agree with me on this notion that Co-op Bank has been and will continue to be a prototype for success. This book is a tale of fortitude, commitment, and leadership, and is a documented and properly chronicled account of our story, the Co-op Bank story. The launching of this book today comes on the heels of the successful acquisition of the assets and liabilities of CIBC FCIB Grenada just 1 week ago. This is yet another one, and if I may say, maybe the greatest one of our success stories thus far. Important to note here is that CIBC FCIB represented the last bastion, the last man standing, as it is said, of the former great Barclays Bank PLC, which was one of the great banks alluded to in this book that we are launching today, with which the working class Grenadians at that point were not privileged to bank. This exclusion of banking services, so aptly described in the book, was the main driving force that incentivized and convinced our founding fathers to pioneer, and I dare say experiment to a certain extent, open a local bank, the Co-op Bank, the penny bank as we are fondly called, to serve those disenfranchised working class Grenadians. This is the same bank that as recently that I can remember, I know I'm not that old for that, was this bank with which Co-op Bank banked. I can clearly remember as a young clerk at Co-op Bank, the big Barclays Bank PLC corporate checkbook that had a semi-permanent residence, except for the time that it was locked in the vault, on Miss Osborne's desk, sister-in-law of one of our founding fathers, Mr. Sam Braffett, who then served as a bank accountant. A closely guarded and protected book it was. Only 4 persons in the bank touched that book. Mr. Gordon V. Steele, rest in peace. Miss Earlys Morissette, rest in peace. Miss Phyllis Osborne, rest in peace. And Miss Claudia Dialli, who's here with us today. Those are the signatories to that bank account at the time. That book was used to facilitate any major payment the bank had to make, such as disbursement of loans, etc. Imagine Co-op Bank gives you a loan, but pays that disbursement with a check from Barclays Bank PLC. Those were the days when Co-op Bank was a small fry. I can vividly also remember our office attendant going over to Barclays every morning, standing in a long line, just as a regular customer. No special treatment was offered, with a big lodgement book filled with checks to deposit our daily collection of checks from the prior day's operations into our account over there, which was our main operating account. I also vividly remember when we joined the ECCB clearing system. That accomplishment allowed us to clear our local checks without depositing them into Barclays Bank account, thus weaning us a little bit off the big bank. It gave us a taste of independence. But for some time, we still use the services to clear USD and foreign checks that we accumulated in our daily operations. We then made a big move, and we proceeded to establish correspondent banking relationships with major banks in major cities in major currencies. That gave us the freedom to clear our foreign checks without the use of our Barclays Bank account. Full independence was then had. We, however, maintained the account there for, I suppose, sentimental reasons, I don't know, until we were written by the then manager and asked to close our account. No real reason was given. Even worse, we were given a time by which to close the account, failing which they will cut a check to the value of the balance of our account, forward to us at our last known address, which is next door. That's when the relationship was finally severed. I remember asking Mr. Duncan, who's with us today, former MD, who at the time was manager of finance and corporate affairs at Co-op Bank, if we should ask for extension to the closure date given to us. Now, if you know Mr. Duncan as well as we at Co-op Bank do, the following response will not surprise you. And it still echoes in my head like it was yesterday. If a man asks you to leave his house, do you ask him to stay a little bit longer? Do you leave the house and then sit on the step, hoping you look outside and ask you to come back inside? No, you don't. You leave the house. You even leave the yard if he has a yard. You hit the road by whatever means necessary, whether it's by foot or by however you came, and you move on. That's exactly what we did. We moved on. Today, Co-op Bank is a full-fledged commercial bank. The first in Grenada to cross the $1 billion mark in assets a few years ago. Just recently crossed the $2 billion mark and heading steadfastly to the $3 billion mark. The bank has moved from the 5th largest bank among the 5 banks in Grenada, and note I didn't say the smallest bank, to at one point the largest bank just a few years ago. It took a merger of 2 big banks to surpass us. Last week, the reverse of what I just described of the FCIB experience occurred. Unlike our directive to leave some years ago, we were privileged and quite frankly honored to extend a warm welcome home to all former customers of FCIB, CIBC, Barclays Bank, call it what you may, and some of its staff members. Today, I wish to extend that same warm welcome to you to this event. I use this little anecdote as a means of setting the tone and the context in which we are welcoming you today to this event, in which the bank is launching a book. A dream come true for us, that of chronicling and preserving the historical, bittersweet, successful journey that Co-op Bank has been on and will continue to be on way into the future. We needed to do this so as not to deprive our future generations and future entrepreneurs among us of our history and our journey and the inspiration our story offers. To allow them to save and appreciate the vision of a few great men, the challenges they face, the sacrifices they made, and the commitment of so many along this journey have displayed. We are doing this lest we forget. We are thrilled that among us today are heirs and successors of that courageous band of daring men, those few great men, as they are called in the book, who defy the odds, who put their shoulders to the wheel, and experimented to open a local bank. A special welcome is extended to all heirs and successors. Your forefathers' efforts were not in vain. Their toils are not without rewards. Though heavy would have been the crown that rode the head that rode that crown back then, today, Grenada, the OECS, and the wider Caribbean has benefited. And many, many, many Grenadians are in a better place today as a result of their entrepreneurship and their vision, as a result of the existence of Grenada Co-operative Bank Limited, fondly called the Co-op Bank.
Welcome.